Hi everyone, it is Switchress Shay Au Lait, and I wanted to, it's story time, especially because today is an intergalactic holiday on all known and unknown galaxies, parallel universes, and especially here on Earth. It is Perle Noire's birthday. Do you know Perle Noire? Do you know of her name? If you are within the burlesque industry, I expect you to know her name, especially if you're a burlesque teacher or you're a burlesque producer. And at some point, if you're a burlesque performer, some point in your journey, you need to know her name. If you don't know her name, I wonder if you're really in burlesque. That can be bold and assumptive and judgmental of me to say, but I don't give a fuck. Perle Noire is our living legend. Let me say that again. Perle Noire, like if you are alive today, if you're able to watch and listen to my voice, Perle Noire is our living legend in the world of burlesque, but also in the world of erotic healing and wellness, sensuality, and empowerment. But it's often housed within burlesque. If you are a burlesque teacher, I expect that your curriculum, especially if you teach more than just like dance moves and flow in your classes, but if you're teaching a holistic curriculum that is intentional and thoughtful of our entire industry, I expect that it includes a whole section on Perle Noire. Otherwise, I don't think you're teaching burlesque. I don't think you've taken the time to actually understand what our industry is. It's akin to me to like being alive during the time of Josephine Baker. And I don't even know if the people alive during that time really knew her impact or even what her legacy would go on to be. But me being a visionary, I understand it and know that we are living in a time where this goddess walks amongst us and she is the queen of burlesque. Yes, there are queens of different festivals and pageants and things like that, but of the entire industry, if I were to select one person to represent us, say to the aliens or on another planet or at the United Nations, if there was one person in all of burlesque, to me, it's hands down Perle Noire. And today is her birthday. I feel so grateful, honored, and special to be alive during the same timeline as her. Like it's ridiculous, and I don't even think people know it. So I will always spread the gospel of Perle. On my website, shayaulait.com, there is a blog and a blog post that I wrote called I Auditioned for Perle Noire and I Lived to Tell About It. I recommend that you go read that to understand my first chunk of experience and even judgment of Perle before I met her, and then when I got the opportunity to audition for her. Before I met her, just following her career, she's the reason why I was comfortable calling myself a burlesque dancer. I'd been a burlesque dancer for so many years, for 15 years, considering this year, like we're in 2023. So I've been a burlesque dancer for 15 years, but I didn't know that I was a burlesque dancer. Then I wasn't comfortable using the title because of my own ignorance. And once I found Perle Noire through Google, I felt comfortable and was like, yes, I'm a burlesque dancer. After auditioning for her house of noir, she restored my faith in burlesque troupes and production companies. I had just left a well-known Black one that I toured the country with that had many, many issues, including safety issues that were just swept under the rug. And I was just like, I honestly was like, fuck this. And once I auditioned for Perle's troupe, my faith was restored. I was like, yes, there can be standards, boundaries. People actually show up on time. Producers are not just like drunk at the start of something. Like there is a level of professionalism and care that does still exist in this industry. I just needed to expand my horizon beyond some of the unhealthy or toxic environments I was in. So I was so grateful for her doing that. Since writing that article, I auditioned to be in her pageant, the Noir pageant, or the festival. I might be misnaming it. I'll have to follow up later. And I did get in. I couldn't actually perform because of the pandemic and COVID and such. I also then joined her group mentorship program. I've also had a one-on-one session, like dance and private session with her as well. Speaking of her group mentorship, when I took that program, it was well into my burlesque and just performance artist career. Like I'd already been doing it for at least, I don't know, I'd already been doing burlesque for like maybe 8 or 9 years by that point. But even still being experienced, it's important to have ongoing professional development, whether you're an experienced producer, performer, hell, even if you're, say, a burlesque photographer, you could still stand to have ongoing classes and workshops that help you to continuously grow and to get other perspectives. Because people get stuck in their own little safe bubbles with their own little safe, like, friends in burlesque or whatever industry, and that's all they hear, and they forget the world exists beyond that, that new techniques for leadership or for performing or just for even thinking exist. So I highly recommend that you take her mentorship program. Even if you're 50 and you've produced 100 million shows and you're the most successful of us all. I want to tell this story because I had a moment recently in which I actually stopped myself and was like, what would Perle Noire do? And it involved me pulling my actual journal from when I took Pearl's mentorship program. This is one of the notes. I have several pages of notes from her, and I referenced it because of something that happened. So hopefully I'm gonna tell a quick story. So I was in a recent production event, like I was booked for it, as well as another performer and several other people, like types of artists and creators and such. So when it came time to promoting the event, I looked at what everyone was doing so I could get the graphics and so I could get the copy to put on my post and in my newsletter and such. So I looked at what the host posted, the producers, the venue, the other performer and such. And what I noticed was that the other performer listed out everyone involved in the show but me. Now, granted, me and the other performer don't follow each other online. I don't follow everybody online. And so that could be why they decided to include every single person involved in the production but me. But then I was reminded of how me as a producer, I recently produced a show called Cypher. I do it at the Nest. It's a monthly burlesque show and mystery thriller. And I had a performer who I booked, Foxworth Vaughan, who, when it comes to social media, he has his settings set up where you cannot tag him in your stories. I don't even think I can tag him in the caption of the post on my personal page, but then on my brand page, I could. And when I noticed that, whenever it came to promoting Foxworth as being a part of the show, I would just spell out his name. I couldn't do the @ and tag him, but I still knew his name, so I would at least write it so that the audience still knew he was a part, and so that on their own accord, they could go look him up. And it was something I noticed because I saw a different performer several weeks ago mention how they were in a show and every single person involved in the show was promoting everyone, tagging everyone but him. And he even mentioned, even if you can't tag me, even if you're not following me, you can still spell out my name as being a part of the production. Or not everyone has an Instagram or Facebook. So this isn't anything new. So to me, it felt like an intentional action on that performer's part to list everyone but me. And frankly, it fucking annoyed me and it fed into my story of sometimes the fuck shit that happens in this industry with aggressive, I don't even use the term passive aggressive, but aggressive people who do ain't shit stuff. That's what I felt like, right? I was like, motherfucker. There might be a dog that you hear. So then what I did, I was getting ready to make a story about it, right? I was like, what my inner gremlin wanted to come out and check a motherfucker. And then Switchress, right? That's me as a lifestyle dominatrix and professional dom, as a top, as many things. I have a podcast on what it means to be a Switchress. But I thought about what Switchress would do, which is very different from my gremlin. And then I was like, ooh, but still Switchress is like, set people right. I'm a disciplinarian and such. And then I was like, but what would Pearl do? Because Pearl's always glamorous. Like, Pearl wouldn't even like teach a lesson to someone. Like, and then I was like, I remember Pearl mentioned something about a freaking lotus. Like, so that's when I pulled out my journal, started flipping to a page. And on this page, Perle Noire Mentorship, this was February 19th, 2029. And we were asking different questions and such. And one person asked her, how do you stay professional in toxic environments? And this is very helpful because I also feel like in some of the other things I'm involved in that aren't necessarily my troops, but I'm involved in other productions and troops, there's a lot of toxicity going on. And so, but specific to this performer, right, their intentional exclusion of my name. Pearl was asked how to stay professional in toxic environments. And she said, call on your inner lotus. That flower can only grow in the mud. And there's other notes, right, about Pearl talking about resilience and glamour and her affirmations and things like I teach burlesque. I have a burlesque teacher training. I teach a lot of different things. You should check out like my resume CV on my website too. And there's so many overlaps between like philosophy and vibes in both of how we teach. But remembering that calling your inner lotus, that flower can only grow in the mud. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to channel Switchress. I'm not even going to channel the gremlin. I'm going to channel Perle Noire. So when I got the chance to promote the event that I was in, I tagged everyone that I follow. And there were a couple people involved in it that I either didn't have an IG or whatever. And I wrote out their names, and including the performer who intentionally excluded me. I even wrote her name out as well, because it takes no effort to do that. See, gremlin, go back in. So I did that, and then I posted it, right? And I tell you, like, I mean, I wanted to say something, y'all. I wanted to say something because I get sick of the fuck shit and the aggressive jabs and things that happen, especially without people just having the conversation or something. Like, I have no idea why this person would exclude me. Literally, I have no idea. So I did include their name. then a few days later, the person made another post about the event, and this time they did write my name out. So either they saw what I did and followed suit, or whatever the thing is, they changed their course and then they actually mentioned me. I feel like if I had returned their aggression with aggression, that could have just escalated it. Or honestly, like, here's the thing, they learned the lesson. The next time they opened their mouth about the event, they also included my name. And all I had to do was channel the way Perle Noire would have handled that situation. And and that's it, right? Like, even though one part of me still wanted to snap, or even me telling this story now, it is expressing more of my feelings around it. But in that moment when it happened, I fucking channeled Perle. And then I started reading through like my other things that I wrote from my mentorship with her. And I just remembered. I just remembered in that moment being like, nope, what would Pearl do? And I know she said something about some freaking lotus. And when I found that quote, it calmed me. It gave me perspective. It brought me back to my legacy years from now and what someone might see or not see. But see, even that shows me how like there are people who intentionally erase your name out of your burlesque history as well. And I don't want to be like that performer or those people, or the other performer weeks ago who mentioned how everyone involved in the show did not mention him. I don't want to be those people. I don't want to erase people's existence from this industry because of like my own petty shit or unresolved issues or unexpressed feelings or something. And so I have to remember, like, I can sometimes be a gremlin and sometimes people need to be told to fuck off. And I can be Switchress, which is more elevated disciplinarian. And there are times where I can be glamorous and show these bitches how it is we do what we do by being professional and above reproach. I have to channel this again because, like I said, Pearl has years ago restored my faith in burlesque troupes and production companies. And even that is a challenge that I'm faced with now, even feeling like I'm being pushed and excluded out of some things regarding an organization. And even today, as I talk about Pearl and how she had restored my hope, I'm going to go back and reread all my notes from the mentorship to have a better idea on how to handle what is currently going on with me. Pearl taught me these things, right? Just to like check in a different kind of way. Because even when I give feedback, I hold no punches. I like uncomfortable conversations. It's fine, but it's also nice sometimes to put a filter of glamour on it, or to extend kindness even when other people are frankly just jerks and assholes. And it helps my legacy. So that's another reason why I'm glad Perle Noire is alive, because I think what would have happened would have been very different if I hadn't remembered Pearl said something about a lotus. And I know Pearl would want me to be glamorous, even in how I deal with this. Pearl, thank you for existing. Thank you for bringing so much beauty to the world. Thank you for your specific brand of burlesque, right? I feel like I'm sometimes in the middle between, like, say, you and Jeez Louise when it comes to attitude and such, because Jeez Louise might be like, burn the shit down. And Perle Noire is like, the lotus grows from the dirt. I can be either or, but my general place is in the middle of that. But sometimes it's good to, it's not even sometimes, it's always a great time to remember Pearl and her elegance and how you can channel her in any moment. So happy birthday to Pearl. She has some specific asks when it comes to her birthday. Sometimes she asks for caviar and champagne, and today she's asking for donations so that she can sponsor numerous people to take her workshops. And I need every single person in Burlesque to take her workshops so that all of us can rise above and be better humans and also more affirming, amazing, glamorous performers. Happy birthday, Pearl. And thank you for all the different ways that you help me be a better performer, producer, and human. I freaking adore you.